Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/MaliciousCompliance, where people follow exact orders to spite someone. And in today's episode, employees are fighting back against their bad, power-tripping bosses. And OP tells a story about the time she followed her Karen boss's exact orders, guys, and it gets everybody fired. I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So I'm a 34-year-old male, and I used to work at a popular gas station convenience store. It was really popular, like with a cult-like following. I've always been a bit of a clown, but very good at following rules while doing so. After working there a few years and seeing managers coming and going, we got a new woman who was just miserable, and she really wanted to flex her authority. So shortly after she starts, she posted the uniform portion of the handbook in the break room, and she starts complaining about people's attire, but clearly took the biggest issues with girls wearing yoga pants. So me, being the petty rule follower I am, combed through the policy, and I noticed some things in the wording. The rules stated that yoga pants are allowed, as long as the ankles flared, and there was no gender designation for these articles. So cue my malicious compliance. I went to Walmart after work and I bought me a couple of pairs of flared yoga pants. Now mind you, I'm a huge, chubby man with a big beard, and I began wearing them almost every day I worked, and especially if she was working. Of course, this infuriates her, and I would regularly hear her protest, and I even saw her going to the assistant GM and the GM. And their response was always, "I can't say anything, he's in dress code." This continued for a month's tops before she requested a transfer. But what made it even more fun was trolling the weird pervert customers. They would stand at the deli area and they would gawk at the young ladies working, especially if they were bent over the hot food table. When I would notice this, I would come up over beside them, and I would give the boys two butts to look at, before whipping my head around and making eye contact with them. And the level of disgust on their faces filled my heart with joy. Guys, the post ends right there, but you know what? OP was the hero that was needed in that convenience store. Like, not only did OP annoy their power-tripping Karen boss, causing her to transfer out of there, but he was also protecting his coworkers from getting creeped on, which is freaking awesome. And seriously, I just want to say huge props to OP for even doing that, right? Like, it's not every day where you see a huge, bearded, chubby man wearing yoga pants, especially not while working in a gas station convenience store. Like, the lengths that some people go to for their malicious compliance never ceases to amaze me, and I frickin' love it. My dad was visiting us over the weekend, and as usual, I got him to share some more stories about his youth. And he shared a time where he used malicious compliance to not only shut up one of his bosses, but got him in deep trouble. Many years ago, back when my dad was a college student, he earned extra money for living expenses by working at a car manufacturing plant. The state at the time was a closed shop, which meant you had to join the union in order to work there, unless you were in an executive position. One of the rules that said union set up at Dad's workplace was that no employee could work certain positions unless they'd been trained for it. This included positions such as forklift operator and trash compactor. This was included in the contract, and it was a no-break rule. And then enters George, the new manager. Made-up name. Unlike many in this thread, George was actually a nice fellow. But to quote Joseph from It's a Wonderful Life, he has the IQ of a jackrabbit, and he didn't always think things through. So one Saturday afternoon, Dad comes into work when George pulls him aside. George tells Dad, "I need you to do me a favor, son. The trash compactor is jammed, and I need somebody to crawl in and unjam it. You're the smallest out of everyone, so it shouldn't be a problem for you." Now, not only had Dad not been trained for loading the compactor, but even he knew that crawling into a machine that had the crushing force of thousands of pounds would be a dumb idea. So he tells George, George, I haven't been trained for this position, and it's pretty dangerous, isn't it?" Hearing Dad say that, George gets all flustered, and George tells him, "I'm the boss. I gave you orders, so just do it." And that's when Dad got the idea for some malicious compliance. Dad tells him, "Okay, I'll do it, but is it okay if I ask one of the other guys to spot me to make sure I don't get squashed and die?" George replies, "That'll be fine. Just make sure the job is done." So with that, Dad heads to his union shop leader, named Kenny. And like George, Kenny was a decent fellow, but he was very protective of his workers and very serious when it came to workplace safety. Dad tells Kenny what happened and how he was expected to crawl into the trash compactor, boss's orders, and then ask Kenny to spot him. Now, as soon as Kenny heard that somebody was to crawl through a compactor, cue him turning at least 5 shades of purple before storming into George's office. Dad told me the whole floor went silent as Kenny unloaded on George for trying to make, quote, a poor college kid do something so effing dangerous, and that this will be documented and written up. Kenny then stormed out, leaving a frightened-looking George quaking in his steel-toed boots. The compactor ends up getting fixed without someone crawling into it. And after that, George always asked people if they were trained for positions before asking them to do it. Yeah, thank goodness Dad was smart enough to not do that, because I have seen and heard horror stories about people losing their lives while getting into those compactors, guys. And honestly, it's so stupid that George used the "I'm the boss, do what I say" card. And in my opinion, I believe he should have been severely reprimanded for even giving an order like that, especially when the machine was fixed in the end without anyone crawling into it. Like, how incompetent of a boss are you? Like, just imagine a newbie not knowing the dangers of industrial compactors, and all they hear is, "The boss told me to do it, so I have to do it." I'm just glad Kenny chewed out George, and I would have loved to have been there to hear it happen. And remember, guys, you always have the right to refuse unsafe work. Like, if you're not confident to do it, it's not worth losing your life over a few bucks an hour. So I work 3 jobs, and the hours and days do vary. My full-time job is in an office space at a very fancy, modern office with a great company. My second job is at a boutique that's a bus ride from my office. It's in a very busy downtown tourist port by the ocean. And the thing is, it's a tourist boutique. It's all city-branded trinkets, shirts, postcards, and gifts. There's really not much any locals would want, unless they're buying it for out-of-town family. And my third job is at a fast food place. I'm often between these 2 jobs, and I don't have time to run home in between. I carry a gym bag with me that has my wallet inside, along with clean business clothes, gym clothes, and work uniforms to change in and out of. On top of that, the bag contains a book for the bus rides, lunch, and snacks. So as of recent, the boutique has experienced a lot of loss, something we had previously brought up of being an issue because our boss, the owner, will often have big tables and buckets of items outside by the side doors, where we can't monitor them, especially if we're inside with customers. People definitely take advantage of this, and we've seen a lot of people grab things and just take off. And these aren't the cheaper items in the store either. I don't know what my boss was thinking, but we've lost an entire display of mid-price sunglasses. And at one point, the entire table was emptied in a snatch and run, with about 5 younger people. But here's the thing, the boss thinks it's us stealing things. His wife runs the store, and she's always in. She then made up this new rule and said we have a new mandatory bag check upon leaving work. Every employee in the store is a woman who usually carries a purse or bag. And here's the thing. Now, it's not just a quick look through the bag. She wants us to remove the items and feel around the sides of the bag to make sure we aren't taking any trinkets and items. And I'll be honest, I haven't seen anybody on staff ever steal anything. And I don't think it's because they're all stand-up employees. I think it's because they don't care to own any of those cheap, tacky tourist items. Now, because my bag is bigger, it's been kind of a nightmare for me. She wants me to take every individual item out of my bag and show that there's nothing wrapped up inside of it, and then lay all the items across the table by the register. The first day of this, I was late to work because she wouldn't start checking my bag until I clocked out. And then she took her time with the customer, causing me to be almost a half hour late to my other job. After that, I decided if my boutique manager wants to make things awkward and difficult on me, I'm gonna turn around and do it right back to her. So a thing about her is she's a very tightly wound conservative lady. So I added a few extra items to my gym bag. I picked up a menstrual cup that I threw into my bag. as period talk makes her absolutely faint. I also threw in a few pairs of the most revealing underwear I could find in adult shops. I also included some reading material, which was 70s Playboys that my neighbor let me borrow. I also, for no reason at all, included lots and lots of condoms, some furry handcuffs I got as a gag gift, and then picked up a pamphlet at a nearby community center for their group therapy for bereavement. And it went off perfectly at the end of my shift. There were customers in the store, and before I left, she made me go through my bag item by item, opening them up and holding it up so she could check to make sure there was nothing hidden. So let the compliance begin. I carefully and slowly fanned out each and every magazine to show her there was nothing between the pages. I then pulled out each set of panties in a creepy fashion, holding them up to the light so she can see directly through the lace and making a big show out of it. Every item that we pulled out of the gym bag made her more and more flush. The woman was so uncomfortable that she could barely perform the check. She nearly had a panic attack when I pulled out a little sandwich baggie with a menstrual cup in it. I even pulled out the pamphlet and I set it aside slowly, with the intent to seem affected by it. She then looks at me quizzically and kind of confused, and she asked what this is about. And I solemnly said, "Oh, I haven't lost anybody, but it's a great place to meet new people." I then pulled out the condoms right after saying that. All in all, my second bag check was definitely faster than the first, and I was finished and out the door in time to catch my bus and arrive to work actually early. Now, honestly, I don't mind doing a bag check if they really feel it's necessary, but the invasiveness of making every employee pull out everything inside their bags and then put it on a table where every customer in the store has a plain view of everything, that's a bit much. And purposely making it take so much time that it's interfering with our other jobs and personal lives is crossing the line. But now, I'm kind of excited to see what other items I can include in my gym bag, just to keep her on her toes. Now, I don't want it to be too obvious, but just enough to make her consider that the lady's bag is usually private, and upending that for all of our customers to see might not be great for business. Update. So the bag checks are officially cancelled. The day after, my coworkers did the exact same thing. By day number 4, all of my coworkers and I had brought in so many personal and uncomfortable items that she no longer felt it was necessary to check. Why am I not surprised it ended so quickly? Like, I love this malicious compliance so much, guys, because I love it when bosses make new absurd rules just to have it backfire on them so hard. And the fact that all of OP's coworkers did the same thing and the whole bag check thing was cancelled after 4 days, that was incredible. With that said though, a lot of people have commented that the bag check should have been done during working hours, not after OP clocked out, because that's a huge no-no. This person comments they're breaking the law by making you clock out. If they require you to do it, they have to pay you. This should be your next malicious compliance, calling the Department of Labor and filing a wage theft complaint. I have 2 part-time jobs as a library assistant for 2 separate libraries in my area. The first one is one of the best jobs I've ever had. It's a small library, but super fun. I love my coworkers, and my trustees are usually pretty cool. As for the second one, well, it's a larger library, and my coworkers are super nice, but one of my trustees, the supervisor, does not like me. I've been here almost a year, and she seems like she's out to get me, and yesterday, she kind of proved it. So one of our most frequently broken rules is you're not allowed to eat in the library. You can have food in the conference room if there's an event or if you're staff. Now here's the problem. I only work solo shifts and the conference room is on the exact opposite side of the library. So if I go eat my dinner in there and a patron comes in, it takes me a minute to reach them. Or they would have to come find me because I didn't hear the bell. So typically, I eat my dinner at the desk for maximum customer service. My boss, the head librarian, understands this and she has no problem with this, as long as I clean up. Well, yesterday, one of my favorite patrons comes in. He's a super nice guy, and he owns an old-fashioned candy shop up the road. The guy's tried to tip me before, but I've told him I can't because I'll get in trouble. So the last couple of times he's been in there, he's given me a candy bar as a thank you. Sometimes it'll be handmade, but sometimes he brings me a Snickers or something. Yesterday, I helped him out, and as per usual, he gives me a huge chocolate bar because he knows I love chocolate. He then leaves, and I sit at the desk to eat my candy, one happy little nerd, when in comes the trustee, who we'll refer to as the entitled woman, the Karen, and she bosses me around a lot. I've just taken a large bite of my candy when she comes in, and the woman turns to the desk where I'm sitting and she levels me with her glare, and a smile that's worthy of a Batman villain, because she thinks she's got me. She then screams at me and says, "What are you doing?" Me, after swallowing my chocolate, tell her, "Oh, I finished putting the books away and I was about to." She then interrupts me and says, "You can't eat here. You have to eat in the conference room. It's policy." Me, internally going, "What the F?" tell her, "It's just a candy bar." She then says, "Are you arguing with me? All food must be eaten in the conference room. It's policy." I tell her, "But I eat at the desk all the time. Sue said it was okay because I work alone. That way, I'm not running from the other side of the library." She then says to me, "So you've done this before?" I tell her, "Yes, Sue knows." She then says, "Well then." The woman sounds totally offended and she walks off to find a book. And I think it's over, but if it were over, would I be here? I come in the next afternoon to find a written warning from her and Sue. Sue apologized and she said she has to sign it to show it's been seen and dealt with. And she tells me not to worry too much about it. And I'm thinking, oh no, I'm not worried about it. I'm so mad. Well, I began to sit and stew about this until I saw the note about the trustee meeting tomorrow night. Sue leaves me a note to remind me every month, so I know I can't get to the microwave in the conference room, and to bring a sandwich instead of something hot. Now, I'm fairly mischievous, and my dad's the king of malicious compliance, so I know exactly what I have to do. So last night, before I come in, I get all the fixings from the grocery store to make loaded nachos for dinner. Chili, cheese, the works. So I get to work and the trustee meeting has just started. And I know Karen has a big presentation for the meeting, so I sit and wait. When I start to get hungry, I politely knock on the conference room door to enter. Karen's just started her presentation, and I say, "I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just need to make dinner since I'm not allowed to eat at the desk." Hearing me say that, Sue immediately clues into what's about to happen, and she shakes her head with a smile. I take it as my go-ahead for what I'm doing. Karen tells me, "Whatever, just hurry up." So I go to the microwave and start my work. I heat up the chili first, and while that's cooking in our very loud microwave, I start fussing with the chips, making as much racket as I can. And even though I have my back to her, I can feel the glare. Once my chili's done, I put the nachos in and microwave those next, while mixing in some chopped peppers from the supermarket for a bit of extra crunch. The nachos then beep loudly and I take them out, but I see that there's not enough cheese and it's not melted enough, so I add more and back in they go. This goes on a bit and I'm finally done with my nachos. Meanwhile, Karen's fuming at how loud I'm being, and it doesn't stop there. I then sit in a vacant seat next to Sue, who's red in the face, trying not to laugh. I then start eating my nachos, and they're so loud and crunchy as is, but I make a huge show of chewing extra loudly. At this point, I can see Karen's red with anger, and I just sit happily eating the sweetest nachos I've ever tasted, until her presentation's over and my plate's empty. I then clean the dishes and go back to the desk with a smug grin. Fast forward to today, when I come in, and Sue tells me that from now on, I'm allowed to eat my dinner at the front desk. Victory. You know what, I really gotta commend OP for doing that in front of a room full of people. I really do, because the confidence, right? Like the fact that she went into a room full of strangers and on purpose was super loud, microwaving and prepping nachos, and then just sat there crunching in front of everyone, all despite the person who hates her, is absolutely brilliant. What a well-played malicious compliance. So I work as an administrative assistant at a major sporting goods retailer. Part of my job is to track attendance and regularly upload a report to corporate. My store manager recently got hired by the district manager, who she's been friends with for years. They managed to push out the old store manager, who had the store running like a ticking clock. Ever since then, it's been abundantly clear that she has no idea how to run the store, and we've all suffered for it. The woman constantly screws up store schedule, bullies employees she doesn't like, and she's hired her incompetent friends to management positions. We all dislike her and we think she should be fired, but it seems like everything she does in the store makes us look bad while making her look good. Until recently. So like I said above, a part of my job is tracking attendance. For years, it's been common knowledge that those in my position are expected to fail to upload attendance records to corporate, because the company's policies on attendance are extremely harsh, and many employees fail to meet attendance due to factors out of their control. For instance, employees who come in before we open to process our freight often clock in late because the managers on duty take their sweet time opening the front doors for these employees. It's not their fault they come in late, and on some occasions, certain employees have been left outside for upwards of 30 minutes after ringing the doorbell, because the only person who could open the doors was busy or didn't hear the doorbell, which was soft. Anyways, if I should upload the attendance record to corporate, many of these employees would probably be fired on the spot by the regional manager. And this is done through email because these things are automated and mandatory. Also, as a side note, the store manager is one of the managers who likes to take 10 to 15 minutes to open the door for freight employees. We all hate her for this because when it's winter, we have to wait those 10 to 15 minutes outside the door in the freezing cold, and she acts like it's no big deal. Anyways, her district manager friend recently moved to another district, and we got a new district manager who's looking to move up in corporate. To do this, she has to make all of our metrics look awesome, including attendance. So she sent an email to the store manager demanding an attendance record. I told the store manager that this could get many employees fired, but instead of realizing the implications, she told me to run the report anyways. I then tried to tell her again that this could result in most employees who had availability before we opened, who are very valuable and rare, getting fired, and she completely blew me off. She literally went as far as saying that I wasn't thinking straight. I then told her that she could adjust the attendance on her end, as the district manager clearly wanted her to do, and she told me that she was the store manager, that she would figure it out, and that I should do my job as told. So I ran the report, and immediately get a furious email from the new district manager, saying I should have run the report by the store manager to adjust the records before uploading it to corporate. The next day, corporate sends an automated email with the name of all the employees that should be fired, which is not an email our manager can respond to or contest. And the thing is, she had to fire all the employees on the email. And as it turned out, every single employee with availability before we opened got fired. 15 people. And every other employee in the store is a student with no ability to work before 10 a.m. So there's no one to process our freight, which is a massive job. I got an email from a friend in corporate yesterday that said the regional manager was lining up a replacement for our store manager due to incompetence, and none of us are surprised. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like, automated attendance-based email firings have gotta be the stupidest corporate policy that I've ever heard of. Like, I had no idea that was even a thing. And the fact that they didn't even investigate or wonder why 15 people were automatically fired through email has me baffled. Like, if the higher-ups think it's reasonable to fire people based on nothing more than attendance reports, the whole company is in trouble. I feel like they have to get rid of that policy as soon as possible. But guys, let me know your thoughts. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /malicious compliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled people episode, where a psycho Karen destroys a store and then she calls 911 on herself. It's such a wild story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.